don't. Trust to the heat. We don't do the same. Don't do the same.
My name's Simon Smith. I'm 50. I was 50 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's Megan Scarlett Clout, so yeah. So 18, legal age to get tattoos, which is handy. I am from London, a borough called Newham, which is known as the roughest part of London.
My name's Sam Byford-Winter. I'm a born and bred Brightonian, pretty much.
I'm Imogen and I'm nearly 40, which is quite sickening. I've got 3 kids. I'm a teacher, teach geography.
My name's Matt. Growing up in Brighton, I've studied art for probably the best part of my life.
My name is Natalie Gathi. I'm from Greece and I'm 25 years old. I'm a fire performer, a model, and I used to work with people with learning disabilities.
My name's Henry. I am a carer and a musician and a model maker.
So my name is Christos Karoukis. I studied computer science for a few years. Once I finished, I got involved in martial arts. Well, really dedicated myself to it as much as I could.
My general view on tattoos, I love them.
To be honest, I've never really had an interest in tattoos. Like, it's not like, I must get a tattoo kind of thing.
I love them. I think there's a certain beauty about the permanence of them.
I think it's nice. I think, they're a way of people expressing themselves.
I believe it really is an art form. I think it's, beautiful work.
I don't really consider tattoos to be an art form as such. I think they are more of a kind of an embellishment.
I like how they can be really spontaneous and just like a random picture on you.
Yeah, I think it's a form of expression for each individual.
Well, I think they really express one's thoughts in some way,
Because they're with me and they're just part of me, they just mean whatever, or their meaning is fluid somehow.
Well, at the age of 13, I got 2 piercings done at the tattoo shop in Greece. And on my way out, I saw one of the tattoo books and sort of caught my interest. And I opened it, I was just flicking by, and a specific symbol caught my eye way before that word meant anything, or I saw that word. That symbol actually was a Chinese symbol that meant God. I'm not religious, but as I said before, in terms of the football, one of my friends was like, you've got such a strong kick that's you got the God's power of the foot. And obviously, because I was young, I caught on to that, and I sort of liked that idea. But even in that moment, I was like, there's something more to this. And there's another 2 reasons for it that I later found out. One being that my mum passed away when I was 13, and being in Greece, such a religious country in some way, having a religious kind of grandma as well, that was sort of anti-thing that, like, my grandma was always like, oh, God's going to be here. And she used to say various things like that to me, but I knew that there was much more there and that it was just a word and it's the way you perceive it. So it started off being this kind of football thing, which then grew into, whoa, okay, I might be doing it as a form of rebellion in some way. And then over time, that switched again. And this is one process that I do admire, which is that even then I knew that this is a tattoo that will remind me of things along the way. And 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'll get something back from it completely. And to conclude on that one, on the first one, what I got the most was just what state of mind was I back then? What state of mind was I in back then? What was I thinking? Who was I? That's what it actually is. Like, it's nothing to do with God really, or I do really enjoy the fact that it reminds me of my football days too, but it reminds me more of that specific time where I don't think that I would be remembering much, because it was a really shocking time for me back then. A lot of things were happening. I don't think it would have really, well, I would have remembered much if I didn't have this tattoo. So this one really is, well, based on that.
So I have 2 pieces, but you could look at them separately because I have all the planets and I have separate flowers on my arm. But the first one I got was one on my chest, and it was the day after my birthday, so I felt a bit rough. But my mum bought it for me, and yeah, it was kind of a spur of the moment decision because I wasn't sure what I was going to get, and then I decided to get all the planets on a line on my chest. I think I love space just generally because it's very fast and expansive, but I think social media is like a big influencer currently of what people get as tattoos. And I saw this pretty nice one on Pinterest that I really liked, so I thought I'd get something along those lines. But then prior to that, I was looking at more space-themed stuff anyway, like astronauts and things. And I guess it ties in with also what my mum has because she has a moon, a sun and stars. So I kind of guess there's some continuity there between what she has and what I wanted. So yeah, I guess there's that link. Awkward moment when somebody asked me to name them and I named them wrong. So should have practiced that a bit more before anyone asked me about them. They make you wait a really long time before you get a tattoo. Like, you book the appointment and then you wait for the appointment and then you turn up, and mine was one of the first ones of the day, and my mum had just got a tattoo before me with the same person, and they make you wait like 30 minutes to an hour after your appointment is booked for to make sure that you want it. And they made sure it was like straight, and that took ages. And then afterwards it was just kind of like the most perfect thing. It was really bright and colourful and hadn't yet started being gross and bleeding like excessively, which did do later on in the day, and it really hurt. But yeah, it just looked amazing, and like all the artists that were working kind of stopped and had a look at it, and they all really liked it as well, especially seeing it was my first one. I think it was kind of like, people say it was a brave place to get it done as your first tattoo, but yeah, I think it was just like brilliant, like having that there permanently.
I have a tattoo that I had done when I was about 15 or 16. I was an angry young man, and I took myself off to Jock's Tattoo Parlour, which was around the back of King's Cross Station. I had a few pints. I think probably not quite as many pints as the tattooist had. And he was this fat old Glaswegian bloke whose the only words he said to me were, "Hey, you're a bony bastard." And I had that kind of feeling of making a really terrible mistake, but I couldn't actually pull out at that moment. I couldn't sort of walk away because I figured that he'd keep the 15 quid that I'd given him. And so I put my shirt up, and he did a tattoo of a small, what was, when it was done, a small bluebird. I think it was a bluebird. I think I chose to have a bluebird, not because I really wanted a bluebird, but because it was actually the only tattoo that he could do. So I had a small tattoo of a bluebird on my back. And it's still there. It's very small. It now looks just like a big sort of blue smudge. But there's a little bit of me that is transported back to the child that I was when I had that done. And I guess that might be why tattoos are important for people, because they are marks in time.
The first one I got done when I was 16, and I was at sixth form college, and this was back in the heyday of grunge music. So me and my friends were all big into like Pearl Jam and Nirvana and hanging out and drinking, and just basically thought we were really cool, and tattoos were a part of that. And at that time it was not many people our age were getting tattoos, so it was a kind of an out there thing to do. And we all went down to Blue Dragon, which I think is still on North Road, and we got our tattoos done. And it was quite interesting because the girls got ID'd, so I got ID'd and I had to go back a week later with my fake ID, but they didn't bother to ID any of the boys, and they didn't look any older than us, so we never worked out why we got ID'd and they didn't. And I got a Celtic symbol done on my shoulder, and at the time not many people had Celtic symbols done, and so to me it was really cool, and it was kind of out there, and it didn't really matter that it didn't have a meaning. I just really liked it as a symbol, and it's quite big on my shoulder. It's probably about the size of the palm of my hand. And then about 3 years later, Celtic symbols were everywhere. They were on t-shirts in Primark, And I was just like, oh, this is really, really shit, because I've now got this thing on my shoulder, which I still like for as of itself, but it just looks like I'm trying to fit in with this Celtic symbol fashion that is soon to go out of fashion.
I have 3 tattoos. I got my first one for my 18th birthday. My mum paid half of it and I got the other half. And it's a lighthouse, which is just there, and it's just about like my family, because like I said, all of my family have come from the like the shipping docks up in like Newcastle, Sunderland, and they all come from like quite traditional roots, and it basically just stands for like seeing like your family being a light in dark places. And then each of the roses is for my mum, my brother, my sister, and yeah, so traditional is just kind of the one that I've gone for, really. I'm planning on getting some more recent, like pretty soon, so yeah.
So I've been being tattooed since I was 24, so it's 12 years of pretty much continuous being tattooed in Waynes. A couple of 100 hours of being tattooed now. And I'm not nearly as covered as I'm probably going to get, and I'm not nearly as covered as a lot of other people that I know. But for the very first time recently, in the last set of tattooing that I got, I decided to, just for my own personal pleasure, finally get some initials of my family tattooed on me, because that's always kind of a corny thing, along with stars or birth dates or your pitbull's face or a good bit of like tribal barbed wire around the arm or something like that. I wanted to get something kind of tasteless, really tastefully done. So I got a friend of mine to tattoo an E and a B on my thumbs in a lovely Cyrillic script that she tattoos in, and a compass on my hand pointing north, because my mother's name is Elizabeth, my father's name is Brian, and my brother's name is Nathaniel. And that's kind of the first bit of kind of corny memorabilia tattoos that I've got, but it kind of felt good somehow.
I have a fairy on my back, which symbolizes myself. The fairy that I have, it shows that her body is quite, it shows like masculine strength, which is what symbolizes the inner strength of me. And she's blind because she doesn't want to see the world as it is, but in my, like, make my own world, so if it makes sense. Yeah, and it's got the moon, which affects, in the back of the fairy, it's got the moon, which affects the people, like everything, basically. Yeah, and it was my first big tattoo, so I'm quite more connected with it. And it hurt a lot. I found the design online, but because I was looking, I wanted to have a fairy, but I wasn't sure which one. And when I saw this image, it was a painting originally, not a an image on the internet, and I did make some changes of the design. My friend did, not me. And yes, so it was originally from the online, and then my friend made it more personal for me.
A friend of mine, she gave me a sort of a Chinese character done, which for fortitude, which for me is a really important word, which is strength in adversity, and I think that's really important for everybody, right? And so she gave this to me, this beautiful piece of calligraphy that this Japanese calligrapher had done for her, and I got it for a Christmas present. I just thought that was it was really lovely. I didn't think anything of it at the time, and then had a bit of a rough patch with my family. My sister was sexually assaulted, and my mother had a brain tumour within the space of 2 weeks. And so I felt, well, actually, do you know what, this is quite a good time to be thinking about. I needed something to sort of, I don't know, it's funny sort of what those kind of things do to you, right, in your life. You don't really sort of know how you're going to respond or how you're going to react. It was quite a shock to the system for both. So in that sense, I kind of, I thought, do you know what, I like this sign, I want to get it on me, basically, and every time then I need a little pickup or a little, I didn't have to sort of go anywhere to do it. I could just look at myself or look in the mirror, and it was there, and it kind of reminded me of how important that is, right? And how, yes, we're always going to have bad times and we're always going to have shit happen, right? But as long as we're strong and we can get through it, right? And particularly if you're strong together and stuff. I mean, I know the tattoo doesn't necessarily mean that, but I sort of look at it in that kind of light. But yeah, overall it was kind of bad times in my life. Very strange. I was quite young when it happened and stuff, so I was like, right, I need to, I want to react to this or respond, and that was one of my sort of reactions, basically, was to get tattooed.
It's just so cool. It's like, you've like decided to do something and so permanently, and even if it doesn't mean anything to you, or like it will still remind you of when you get it done. Like my whale doesn't mean anything to me, but I still remember the moment that I was like, I really want to just get a tattoo right now, and I went and did it. And I just think that's cool, because I think people are afraid to do things so permanently.
My attitude is always that they've always been there, and that the actual process of being tattooed is just letting something from underneath out. I don't feel that they add anything to me, but neither do I feel like they take anything from me. I'm always just feel like they're always there, they just come out in time. Does that make any sense?
I think every decision you make stays with you for the rest of your life. So I don't think I will ever regret them.
So when I look at the tattoo, I am reminded of my childhood and perhaps that feeling of rebellion and perhaps that feeling of anger that I felt at that time, that was the thing that drove me to have the tattoo done in the first place.
The one on my shoulder I do forget about, and then when it comes to the summer, it kind of takes, or if I go swimming, then it takes me by surprise. If I sort of look over my shoulder and there's a mirror and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that tattoo on my shoulder that I don't like.
That was one of the roughest times in my life. I felt quite helpless because I couldn't do anything either for my sister or for my mother at the time. I could be there for them, but then that doesn't feel like enough either, right? So in that sense, I think I got it originally as a little bit of a reminder, but also to remind myself that shit's going to happen in life, but you're always going to get through it as long as you have the strength of heart in order to do that, right? It doesn't bring me back to that space, but it's just a reminder of that time kind of thing a little bit, and I think that's quite important as well. It's wonderful to remember the good stuff, but I do think sometimes we choose not to remember the bad stuff, and actually sometimes that's quite important in life. I think just to remind you of why you are in a certain way, or why you act in a certain way or behave, or whatever it is.
When some people go through tough periods of their life, it can be quite, it's quite comforting, like taking control of like something in your life and putting something on you for the permanence of it's quite nice in troubled times, I guess, where everything seems like chaotic and like inconsistent. Like when you put something on you, like you're going to have that for the rest of your life, and that's a conscious decision that you've made to plaster yourself or decorate yourself with art, really. So yeah.
I'm not too much into the past, and I sort of take the past and think about how I can make the future of my present way better. And that's what they remind me about too. Yeah, they remind me about single things, but they all morph together at the end of the day. And yeah, I mean, that's, the size increased with each one as well. So did the complexity of the design. From the first two till the very last one, my thought processes have changed, but I really, at the end of the day, keep them as one. They're all really symbolize one thing for me, and it's just, memories, and it's how you use them, really.